This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by Greenworks Consults, a company run by a longtime listener to the show, Jason, who's an expert when it comes to helping businesses get better at doing business. Learn more about what Greenworks Consults is up to over at greenworksconsults.com, with works spelled W-O-R-X. That's greenworksconsults.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Thursday, May 7th, 2020, and you're tuned in to episode 930 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We return to yesterday's top headline for today's top story, as we have some updates to the storyline of zombie cannabis tech firm MassRoots and the $50,000 Paycheck Protection Program loan it managed to finagle out of the federal government, despite the fact that legal marijuana firms and even ancillary companies are barred from participating. The top update on this one is the justification that MassRoots founder Isaac Dietrich used in order to get his $50,000 loan. That most of MassRoots' revenue last year came from investors, with just 3% coming from cannabis companies. Let me state that another way. MassRoots got a $50,000 loan from the federal government because it is a terrible business and relies on money raised from gullible or shady investors. It makes no money, is not a real business, and seems to exist mostly as a mechanism for Isaac's friends to make shady stock deals and for Isaac to have a business card with the word CEO on it. Read this story. Robert Connolly at the Quad City Times has a good piece up about the 18 pre-applications that have been filed in Iowa for 2 medical marijuana dispensary licenses recently made available. We covered this one just at the start of April as 2 of the state's 5 dispensaries closed up without advanced notice, citing financial pressures. I should probably mention here that our friend Andrew Livingston, a longtime regular on our weekly show Marijuana Today and co-host of our show Weed Wonks, is cited by Robert as he talks about the unique economic opportunity that the Iowa market presents in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. Iowa is one of the more limited medical marijuana programs in the country, so I think it's notable that there's this much interest in operating there. Kyle Yeager has today's final top story as he notes the bill passed yesterday out of a Louisiana House committee that would allow doctors to recommend medical marijuana for any condition they deem fit, rather than just for a simple prescribed list of approved conditions. Another piece of legislation advanced out of committee yesterday would free up medical dispensaries to offer curbside delivery. This runs in the stream of stories we're seeing all over the country of states changing their cannabis rules and regulations in response to the coronavirus pandemic. Both bills in Louisiana now head to the full House for deliberation there. You can swing over to Kyle's story at Marijuana Moment for more here if this catches your attention. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz it in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Greenworks Consults, a company run by a longtime listener to the show, Jason, who's an expert when it comes to helping businesses get better at doing business. Right now, when you engage with the pros at Greenworks Consults, they will donate $500 to the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona. Jason and his team are doing that for each new project they sign up between now and September. So not only will you get access to expertise that will help you tune up your business operations while trimming down your costs, but you'll also be helping a lot of people in Southern Arizona. The reality of doing business is that it's hard to keep an eye on every single part of your operations, so there naturally builds up places where you could be doing things better. What Jason and his team of experts bring to the table is both fresh sets of eyes and a long history in knowing all the ways that companies can track how they do business and then modify things so that that business is done better. That translates directly into more money in your bank account at the end of every month. And right now, again, it also translates into a $500 donation to the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona. Get on that today and start saving your money. Open up greenworksconsults.com with works spelled W-O-R-X. That's greenworksconsults.com. All right. Time for the blitz. Thomas Mitchell over at Denver Westword picked up on numbers released by the Colorado Marijuana Enforcement Division that shows that just under 15% of all legal marijuana flower tested for microbial contamination in the state last year failed. That's typically cannabis flower that has more than the allowed level of mold and yeast. For a bit of comparison, an even 15% of all tested flower in 2018 failed and 10% in 2017. So that level has remained relatively level over the last 2 years. Marijuana Business Daily's John Schroyer takes a good, deeper dive into the chaotic legal adult use licensing process being rolled out by the city of Los Angeles, California, which has been mired in recent months by controversies surrounding how it gave out 100 business licenses last year. Those 100 licenses, which were given out to Economic Empowerment Program participants, have been on hold since November and await approval from LA Mayor Eric Garcetti. This is an insightful read, even if you don't do business in Los Angeles. Pop over to Marijuana Business Daily for the full read here. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Rolling Stone has an interesting look at New York City's booming illicit marijuana market, which has thrived as New Yorkers have been moved indoors due to the coronavirus pandemic. New York City has a well-established illicit cannabis delivery system that relies on countless couriers and delivery people to bring bud right to the door. All that's changed now is that most sales are conducted in a contactless manner. This is a good one to read in full to build your understanding of the world outside, at least when it comes to cannabis. The Canadian province of Ontario is extending the emergency order it put in place after the coronavirus pandemic hit that allows for curbside pickup and delivery of marijuana. That order was set to expire yesterday, but will remain valid until at least May 19th. Ben Adlin, writing over Marijuana Moments, has another must-read story on the day as he picks apart a 222-page proposed bill just released in Minnesota to legalize adult-use marijuana. From the sounds of it, the proposed legislation is quite comprehensive, covering important issues like social equity and diversity, as well as cannabis events, home grow, and public commercial consumption. You can read more on this and scan the legislation yourself, if that's your sort of thing, over at Marijuana Moments. We have one more Marijuana Moments today, this time with Kyle updating a storyline we've covered recently in Washington, D.C. over efforts by activists there to collect signatures of support for a psychedelic mushroom decriminalization ballot measure. Yesterday, the D.C. Board of Elections approved a petition that will allow for signatures to be gathered electronically. That followed a vote by just one day by the D.C. Council that set the policy in place broadly. This is great news for drug policy reform and even better news for democracy. Finally, for today, we have Deborah Borchard at Green Market Report updating yet another story we touched on yesterday around the resignation of High Times CEO Stormy Simon. More detail broke later in the day yesterday after we already went to press, so we have Deborah sharing the news that former Green Growth Brands CEO Peter Horvath has been named the new CEO of High Times Holdings, which oversees both High Times Magazine and the Cannabis Cup series. As she always does, Deborah takes a good incisive look at this story, as Horvath's track record as a businessman is less than sterling, as he was recently released from Green Growth Brands after leading a somewhat disastrous acquisition. That's stacked on top of High Times Holdings, which now has had 3 CEOs in the past year and continues to bleed cash. In a day full of stories to read, this one belongs on your list. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Greenworks Consults, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today.
One take, Shay. One take.